In 1975, a Kodak engineer named Steve Sasson built the world's first digital camera inside a Kodak lab on Kodak's dime. His bosses told him to keep it quiet. The company that invented the future then spent the next 30 years running from it, and that single decision would eventually cost them everything. By 1990, more than 70% of Kodak's profits came from film. Not just the rolls, the processing chemicals, the photo paper, the development labs. Every snapshot a family took generated multiple purchases, all from Kodak. It was a recurring revenue loop so reliable that Kodak's annual revenue peaked at $16 billion in 1996, with profits peaking at $2.5 billion. That kind of money makes it very hard to bet against yourself. Kodak's leadership had projected the digital disruption coming. They knew. They just decided they had time. Their internal calculations suggested digital would take decades to go mainstream, a timeline that would let them manage the transition while film still generated billions annually. But the transformation accelerated after 2000, arriving roughly 15 years faster than they'd modeled. Meanwhile, the competitors Kodak had dismissed weren't waiting. Sony, Canon, and Nikon began investing heavily in digital imaging, using technology Kodak had licensed to them, while Kodak protected its film empire. By the time Kodak launched a serious digital camera line in the late 1990s and early 2000s, competitors had already built ecosystems, software, sensors, partnerships, and consumer trust. This wasn't ignorance. It was a calculated bet on the wrong timeline. A decision made not because Kodak couldn't see the future, but because the present was too profitable to risk. Kodak knew digital was coming and still chose film profits over the future. So here's a quick question. If you were running Kodak in 1996, would you have made the same call, or would you have pulled the plug on film early? Drop your answer in the comments below. Now let's talk about what that choice actually cost them. By the early 2000s, the window Kodak had been counting on had already closed. Digital camera sales surpassed film camera sales for the first time in 2003. Kodak finally launched a serious consumer digital line, but they were entering a market they had spent 2 decades handing to competitors. Sony had the sensors, Canon had the consumer trust, and Kodak had something none of them did: 145,000 employees, chemical plants, and a cost structure built entirely around a product the world was abandoning. They tried to pivot: printers, digital kiosks, medical imaging. Each move was real, each move was too small, and each move was funded by a film business that was now bleeding revenue instead of generating it. You can't restructure a $16 billion empire on the margins of a pivot strategy. In January 2012, Kodak filed for bankruptcy. A company once worth $30 billion reduced to negotiating with creditors. The lesson isn't that Kodak failed to see the future. Steve Sasson built it in their own lab in 1975. The lesson is that they saw it clearly, calculated what acting on it would cost them short-term, and chose the quarterly profit. That choice, repeated year after year by executives who knew, is the most expensive decision in corporate history. Subscribe for more stories like this, and watch the Black